Hi, my name is Dane Gudde. I'm a woodworker and furniture maker in Austin, Texas, and welcome to my shop. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. If you've been here before, welcome back. You're going to be familiar with some of the things I'm going to be talking about in this shop update. Today is July 19th, 2020, right in the thick of it, and it has been a strange year to say the least. I've had a couple of projects come in, and that's been fantastic. But I've mainly spent this time organizing and getting my shop where it should have been 2 years ago when I moved in. But right now, I'll show you some of the new tools that I've acquired this year. I'm going to cover some of the projects that I've already done, and I'm going to give you a peek inside all the organization and kind of show you where I am to date, so stick around. Alright, so first up on the new tools, new fixtures, new things to the shop is this welding table. I made this welding table about a month ago before I made the media stand that you'll see here in a little bit. I have always needed a welding table, but until now I've never had the space to actually justify making one. I could not afford to buy one of the strong hand tools tables or anything else that's out there that's $4,000 or $5,000, and so I decided to make this one out of some steel that I got from my local supplier here in Austin. And this thing is been a long time coming. It's 14 gauge 2x2 tube on the bottom, or on the base. It is 8 feet long by 46 inches wide or deep, and it's made with 1x3 1/8 inch tube, rectangle tube on the top, spaced 1.5 inches apart. So the reason for the spacing is so I can take my clamps and actually clamp down to the table and weld. Steel flexes an unbelievable amount when you're actually welding because it heats up and cools down and the steel moves and reacts to the heat. And so until now I've been welding on my assembly table, which you've seen in a number of videos, but it's done the job, but it's not been ideal. And being able to clamp to the table really allows me to fight the steel flex as much as possible and control that so I don't have to spend a lot of time after the fact getting things back to square or back to where they should be. So this has been great. The last addition on this side, which will tie into another new tool that I got that you'll see in a second. So this is about a 6-foot welding area, and then here is what I'm going to be dedicating to using my plasma cutter to cut steel. These slats are removable, as you can see. They're sacrificial. When you use a plasma cutter, and I'll demonstrate here in a second, when you use a plasma cutter, you're basically using a welding arc and compressed air to cut the steel. And so, unlike just like an angle grinder or anything else, you're actually cutting right through it. So a circular saw cuts through wood, you need a sacrificial bottom. This is the exact same idea. And so that's why it's spaced out in these flat bar slats, and so I can flip the slats around before I even have to replace them, so I should get a lot of life out of this side of the table. But the plasma cutting section is actually in the same plane as the welding table. So on the media stand I just made, that thing was almost 7 feet long on the base, and that took up the entirety of the table. I was still able to maintain flatness, levelness, all those great things you need when you're actually welding. I was able to do here because I could clamp it down and it ran the length, versus my assembly table, that thing is almost 7 foot long, but I couldn't clamp anything down. Staying in line with the welding and the new tool aspect of the shop, this is the plasma cutter that I was just talking about. I bought this after I finished the job for the Austin Tech Build series. It was a local company based out of California. You can Google that, but that was a cool job. I was able to acquire a plasma cutter, which I've wanted for a long time. I decided to go with this Everlast machine. It's a 52i plasma cutter. It's got a CNC port. If I ever want to get a CNC plasma cutting table, I can actually use this machine without having to get a different one in theory. Yes, I hadn't actually even used a plasma cutter, but I knew I wanted and needed one for upcoming projects. So I decided to go with this Everlast machine. So far it's been a great project. I think it claims it'll do up to 3/4 of an inch thick plate steel, which at this point I'm thinking that's going to be more than I'll ever need to cut. But I have it, and the way a plasma cutter works is it uses I mentioned it earlier, but because it uses compressed air and a welding arc, I needed to also get a new compressor. So let me show you that. I've got my California Air Tools air compressor, and then I ran my own dedicated line. PEX pipe. It's about 20 feet or so, and it goes to my air dryer. With a plasma cutter, you want the air as dry as possible. So that's the air dryer. I wanted to show you now quickly the plasma cutter. For those of you who don't know what a plasma cutter is, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to use my plasma cutting section. I've got some 1/4 inch by 2, and I've got some 1/8 inch by 3. So I'm just going to make a couple of cuts, show you how it works. So moving down the line of the new tools in the shop, this is one of the coolest things that I've acquired to date. It's a 1957 Delta drill press. It's the 15200 series. And this thing is just bad to the bone. I mean, look at it, look, boom! I found this on a local classified ad in the area. The dude had it, and it's a 3-phase motor. So that was a new challenge for me. I don't have 3-phase power in the shop. I only have single-phase 220. This is 3-phase 220. So I actually had to get this VFD, which is a variable frequency drive, which takes single-phase 220 power and converts it into usable 3-phase 220 power. After a lot of research, I was able to pretty easily decipher how to wire up this VFD and get this thing working. Pretty much like brand new. Like I said, it's from 1959. I'll actually link the video somewhere up here, so you can go check that out if you're interested. But this is a great little drill press. Before this, I had a Porter cable drill press that was about the same size, a 15-inch drill press, and it was great. But this thing came up, and I'm a sucker for old tools, so I couldn't pass it up. But let me just show you this thing real quick. It's pretty awesome. So it's your standard step pulley drill press, nothing crazy about that. If you're new to drill presses, these two pulleys have different belt or different diameters that control the speed of the spindle, and so you actually have to move the belt to the different pulleys to change the speeds to go faster or slower depending on the material that you're actually drilling through. Because this is a 3-phase motor, you're able to use this variable frequency drive to actually change the speeds at the twist of a knob, which is really cool because most of the time when I need to use a drill press, I'm drilling wood or steel, and they actually have their own respective individual speeds at which it's the most effective to drill through them, steel being slower, wood being faster. So with this VFD, I'm able to dial in that speed very quickly without having to change the belt set, which was kind of the downfall for me of that Porter cable drill press. This thing's really cool. It's got the on-off switch and then the start-stop. Pretty whisper quiet, but the best part is this thing right here. So that right now is spinning at max speed. And you can turn it down. You can go from drilling wood to steel instantly just by switching that knob. So this thing is awesome. One of the coolest things is this switch right here. It's inoperable right now. I disabled it, but just the design of that didn't really get cooler than that. All right, so if the drill press wasn't cool enough, I've got this thing. And for those of you who are not familiar with machining tools or machinist tools, I was right there with you 6 months ago. This is what's called a vertical milling machine. In a nutshell, what it does is it's got a fixed head that you mount an end mill, a drill bit, any sort of milling tool on here into the into the spindle. You can drill with it because it's basically just a giant drill press. But one of the coolest things about this tool is it's essentially a manual CNC machine. So by that, I mean the table moves and the mill or the bit that you're using stays stationary. And so you put your material in the vise and you can do all kinds of things with this. So it moves forward, backward, side to side, and up and down. It's got a 3 horsepower, 3-phase electric motor. I don't know what year this thing is from. It weighs at least a ton. I had a hell of a time getting this thing in here, and it's pretty awesome how we did it. So check that out really quick. But we got it in here, pushed it to where it is now. This thing, the motor on this one is interesting. It actually has 2 different speeds. Again, I don't have 3-phase power. It's got a variable frequency drive running this machine as well. I can dial in the same speed just like the drill press. I can cut wood and steel, aluminum, you name it. I could most likely mill it on here. And when I say mill it, what I mean is I can cut rectangles or slots out of steel. I can take a steel block, mill it down and make it smaller and square it off and use it for a different part. Or I can, recently I made a shelf for all of our tomatoes from the garden, the cans, jars that we canned this year. I think we got about 50 or so cans of tomatoes. So I'll show you a quick bit of that, but I used this machine to route out all the dados that I needed for about 13 shelves on this. If you think the drill press is cool, this thing is just almost a little bit cooler. It's a Bridgeport clone, so I looked at a Bridgeport. That thing fell through. It was just too expensive for the condition that it was in. This one came up in Houston. I got an unbelievable deal on it because it's got a digital readout, so it'll actually tell me where I am in relation to the head without having to use the dial indicators on the actual weighs. I've got this very, very cool drill chuck, monster drill chuck right here. This thing is just awesome. So this is going to really open up a lot of possibilities in the future for projects, for anything that I want to do, and I'm really, really glad to have this thing. Really quickly, what this machine is capable of doing, I've got a piece of 1x3 1/8" rectangle tube in here, the same stuff I made the welding table out of. I've got an end mill loaded in here. I'm just going to slot this really quick just so you can see what this machine is capable of. I'm cutting mild carbon steel, nothing fancy, but this will give you an idea of what this does, so check it out. Okay, so that's just one example of The versatility of this machine, it is designed to, and the overall intention is to cut metal, steel, aluminum. But as you can see, I just cut this 1x3 tube without any sort of real issue. This is an old end mill, so the possibilities are pretty endless for me when it comes to what I can do with this machine. I just made this quick little slot in this 1x3 tube, but it gives you an idea of what this is designed to do. So very, very excited to have this in the shop. That's enough of that. I'll give you the quick overview from this corner. Nothing much has changed here, but I'm still organizing and trying to figure out where I want things. I've got a bunch of projects lined up that I want to do next. That about does it for showing you how the new tools work. You saw the drill press, you saw the milling machine, and now you just now saw the plasma cutter. Those things are really going to open up a lot of possibilities for me in the future as to what I can do in the shop. I basically have a fully functioning woodworking and metalworking shop now. The only thing I don't have is a lathe, which that's kind of on the horizon, so we'll see. Now I'm going to show you just a couple of the projects that I've been doing this year and the client work that I've done, so check that out. Stand was a very challenging project. I'll link the series for that right up here, and then as well as a series for those tables that I did for that Austin Tech company. They turned out great, and I love white oak, so hope you enjoyed that. Coming projects that I've got on the horizon, I've got a couple of things that I want to do. It's more personal work than client-driven work. So if you've got an idea for a piece of furniture, or you're looking for something to be custom made, drop me a line. But right now, growing up as a kid, my dad had this really cool, I thought it was cool at least, my dad had this fire pit made. It was on wheels, kind of like a tripod stand, but he kind of designed this very just simple square fire pit. I want to gift that to him as a cool project to do. Right now with the pandemic and the COVID business, I don't know when I'm going to be able to actually give that to him in person, but I'm going to start working on that here in the next coming days. I'm going to use the plasma cutter, I'm going to use the mill for that, so it's going to be really nice just to be able to use all these new tools for that. Another project that I want to do when it gets a little cooler here in Austin is we are in need of a garden shed. So I'm going to make a garden shed, but it's going to be a post-frame garden shed. It's going to be overbuilt like crazy, and so I'm excited to start that project and to share that with you. I've been watching a lot of R&R buildings. Kyle Stumpenhorst and Greg, they've absolutely encouraged me to take this project on. So I'm going to overbuild a garden shed, and it's going to be probably about 11 by 17. It's going to be on concrete piers. And I'm going to make some kind of wet set brackets for it, and so it's just going to be great. I'm excited about that project, so that's going to be coming up soon. The last new tool I need to show off is my brand new Martinez framing hammer. This thing is unbelievable. Made in the USA, titanium handled framing hammer, steel head, 15 ounce. I'm going to be using this thing quite a lot to make the post-frame shed. Man, Kyle uses one of these from R&R Buildings. That's kind of where I got turned on to him, and it is just a fantastic product. Laura got this for me for our anniversary this year. My mind was blown when I got it. It's just a great tool. This will be a hammer that I'll have for the rest of my life. So I'm very, very grateful to have this thing, and I'm very excited to start using this. So Stay tuned for more on this hammer and get to see me swinging this thing really soon. And lastly, the project that I'm most excited about is getting back into sewing a little bit. So if you don't know, last year, or I guess a year and a half ago now, I bought an old sewing machine, a 3115 Singer from 1930, or the 1930s. I restored that, got it back to working, and with the intention of making my own jeans. I found 100 yards of salvage denim from Cone Mills Denim in North Carolina, and I bought 100 yards of it, and that's gonna last forever. So I bought the machine in January, and by mid-February, I'd already made a pair of jeans, and so I think I wound up making 9 pair in 2019. I've worn out the first pair that I made as a pair of work jeans. They've got holes in the knees, and I'll show you those once I get into the project, but I'm gonna make a series of videos on how I make my own pair of jeans. So if that interests you, stay tuned for that. That'll be coming out pretty soon, and I'm gonna start on that here in the next couple of weeks. So I'm pretty excited about that one. Thanks so much for watching this video. I wanted to give you a midway through the year shop update, walkthrough, since a lot of things have changed this year for me, mainly in the shop. So if you like what you saw and you're not already, I'd ask you to subscribe to the channel for more of these cool videos. There's gonna be more of these videos coming down in the future. Hit that like button at the bottom, and we'll see you in the next one. So thanks for checking it out.